안녕하세요. 저는 영어 영문학과 차위노입니다. 저희의 발표 주제는 A Connecticut Yankee Inking Others Code입니다. 저희 팀원은 4명인데 원희춘, 차위노, 양칭링, 송위청입니다. 일단은 제가 그 작품의 저자 마크 트웨인을 소개해드리겠습니다. 마크 트웨인은 미국의 작가와 연설가입니다. 그분은 미시시피 강의 항해사, 관부와 신문 기자를 일해본 적이 있습니다. 그 후에 점점 재미있는 소설을 쓰면서 작품 생애를 시작했습니다. 마크 트웨인은 현실주의에 대한 비판의 창시자입니다. 그의 작품은 부합리한 형상이나 인간성의 추악함을 비판하며 식자공과 성왕을 해본 적이 있는 작가의 강한 정의감과 평민에 대한 관심을 표현하고 있습니다. 마크 트웨인은 초기 자본주의에서 제국주의까지 이르는 미국의 발전 과정을 경험하는 동시에 그의 사상과 창작도 큰 변화를 생겼습니다. 마크 트웨인의 작품은 뚜렷한 세계 예술 특징이 있습니다. 다음은 제가 간단하게 얘기하도록 하겠습니다. 첫째, 마크 트웨인은 자주 서부의 유머 전통을 바탕으로 너무 과장된 예술적 상상을 징해했습니다. 둘째, 마크 트웨인의 작품은 대부분 1인칭, 나를 주인공으로 합니다. 그들은 대부분 성진하고 성실하고 무식하고 생각이 단순하며 다양한 희극성 인물을 연기했습니다. 셋째, 마크 트웨인의 작품 중에 유머와 풍자는 항상 같이 있습니다. 마크 트웨인의 작품은 주로 3가지 주제를 둘러쌌습니다. 바로 미국의 위상적인 정치를 비판하는 것, 미국의 기형적인 도덕관을 비판하는 것, 그리고 미국의 거짓 종교를 비판하는 것입니다. 마크 트웨인은 평생 동안 많은 작품을 썼는데 장르는 소설, 급본, 산문, 시 등 각 방면에 걸쳐 있습니다. 그의 대표적인 작품은 소설 100만 파운드, 허클베리 빙의 모험, 톰 소여의 모험가 있습니다. A Connecticut Yankee Inking Others Coat 또 마크 트웨인의 유명한 작품 중의 하나입니다. 다음은 저희 발표팀원 양칭링 씨가 이 작품에 대한 주요 인물을 소개하겠습니다. 이상입니다. 감사합니다.
다음으로 줄거리 소개를 하겠습니다. Amazing time and space reversal let a Connecticut Yankee run through medieval England in a flash. With the power of modern technology, he has transformed the legendary world of King Arthur. The book is about the author who travels to England, meets a man, and gives him a scroll of parchment, a book about his time travel to King Arthur's court. The man gave him the book and fell asleep, and the author began to read it. The man was captured by the Knights of Kai. After he crossed the river, he saved himself with science when he was about to be executed, and replaced Merlin with his wisdom. Later, he used his scientific knowledge to make a lot of factories, invented newspapers, bicycles, telephone, and tried to make it a democratic government. Later, he married a girl named Sandy, and they had a daughter. And last there was a war. He and his knights used technology to win, but Merlin used magic to put him into a coma for 1,300 years. When he woke up, he met the author traveling. After the author finished reading their book, he found that the man was calling for his wife and daughter, and then he died. There is a latecomer who is not a native yet. There he could use his talents and knew better than anyone else what the world would look like in the future. He wanted to take the King Arthur court into a modern, democratic state with a prosperous economy and rich people. He had been a humble prisoner, and now he was the nation's prime minister. He shines brighter than the King Arthur's court. Ironically, the credit goes to an ordinary American. When a Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's court was published, it was greeted with laughter and applause, but there were a few angry hosts from those who were poked where it hurt. The book not only deeply depicts Mark Twain's hard hatred from human injustice, but also publicizes his firm belief in equality.
This part is about main characters. This is Yankee, or Hank Morgan. He is the novel's main character. He often called the boss by the common people of England. He is practical, business-minded, hard-working, determined, intelligent, and has a good memory. He is a devout Protestant who values religion's freedom, and a born leader who has inherited rank. This is Clarence. He is Yankee's most trusted friend. He begins as a friendly but fairly ignorant page, who takes a liking to the Yankee and offers him aid. This is King Arthur. He is a wise and gracious king. He tries his best, but he has a full share of the prejudices and superstitions of the day. The Yankee's opinion of his intellectual capacity varies, but he is capable of learning and of correcting his mistakes. This is Sandy. She is a pretty but somewhat flighty girl who comes to Arthur's court seeking assistance, and becomes attached to the Yankee. The Yankee finds her terribly annoying at first, but she proves to be quite useful and pleasant. This is Merlin. He is deceptive and petty and terrible vindictive, a hack magician with the fatal flaw of actually believing his own sleight of hand. He would be a dangerous person if any of his tricks ever worked. This is Sir Sagramor. He is an average haughty, blockheaded knight. He angers quickly and holds a grudge. Next are other characters. Sir Lancelot. He often called the Invincible. He is noble and gracious and generally good in every way, except for his tragic passion for Guinevere. Guinevere, she is Arthur's beautiful queen. Everyone in the country knows of her indiscretions. Morgan Le Fay. She is a vicious but beautiful and genteel queen. Arthur is her brother, but she hates him passionately. Sir Kay, a cowardly and ineffective knight who happens to be Arthur's foster brother and sinister. Marco, he is a humble charcoal burner, fairly representative of the poor-spirited peasants of the day. Dowley, he is a prosperous blacksmith, extremely proud of his position as a self-made man.
Quotes. Whatever one of these laws or customs was lacking in that remote time, its place was competently filled by a worse one. Twain is direct about his judgment of European laws. This statement established a key theme of the book, the contrast between European ideas and American ideas, and Twain's belief that American ideas are superior. 2. I judged I would have the start of the best educated man in the kingdom by a matter of 1300 years. This statement tells a lot about Hank. He is ambitious, but he is also realistic. He knows most of his advantages stem from an educational system and didn't exist in King Arthur's time. It is no use to throw a good thing away merely because the market isn't ripe yet. This line works on two levels: Hank's observation about his life in the 6th century and also Twain's observation about his own life and career. Hanks recognized early on that he will have to build up a certain key ideas, such as democracy and abolition of slavery. In real life, Twain asked for his autobiography to be held back 100 years after his death. He did this because he wanted to be honest about certain topics and felt a little audience would be more open to his ideas. 4. Inherited ideas has a curious thing. I had mine. The king and his people had theirs. This is a profound recognition on Hank's part. He acknowledges the power of ideas in which are trained from birth. Twain may have been thinking about discriminatory attitudes toward African Americans, which were certainly inherited ideas in the United States during Twain's life. 5. It may be that this girl had a fact in her somewhere, but I don't believe you could have sleuthed it out with a hydraulic. Twain became famous as a writer for his uniquely American way of seeing things. This moment, the first conversation between Hank and Sandy, is a perfect example. Hank questions Sandy and gets few details out of her about their supposed quest, but rather than precisely saying so, Twain uses the imagery of engineering to suggest Hank might have needed machinery to extract a fact from Sandy. 6. You say my kind of loyalty was loyalty to one country, not to its institution or its office holders. Hank expresses a fairly modern idea of loyalty, or what might today be called patriotism. Loyalty to your country was loyalty to your lord. In the pre-Civil War period, some Southerners saw themselves as citizens of their state first and their country second. Twain, on the other hand, expressed the Northerners' view. You are an American first, and that is more important than smaller loyalties. Their very imagination was that, when you can see that of a man, he has dark bottom, I reckon this is no loyal deep for him. Hank is an imaginative person, as is Twain. To him, a person who cannot use his imagination might as well be dead. This is another reason Hank feels the freemen of King Arthur's England are not really free. If their lives are so miserable, they cannot even imagine anything different. Then how free are they? 8. Intellectual work is misnamed. It is a pleasure, a dissipation, and its own highest reward. Hank differentiates between physical labor and intellectual work, and it is clear which he prefers. In true egalitarian fashion, Hank assumes anyone could do the intellectual work he does, but it is unlikely that his common peasants in Arthur's kingdom would be capable of intellectual work, since they have never been taught to think. Hank plans to address that, which is why one of his earliest innovations is a school system.
That's all for our presentation about a Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's court. Thank you.